Hey, this is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. So proud to be with you again today. Listen, in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, it's called the faith chapter. I wonder how many of today's people that are in today's church, in the setting of today's ministers and whatever, would be written down in the new Bible, if there's a Bible being written today. How many of them would be written down in the book of faith in the new Bible? Moses was written down. Moses had a fearlessness of Pharaoh, even though he was raised by Pharaoh and knew that Pharaoh would have soon killed him, as not. And he had this fearlessness, and the contest he had with Pharaoh in Egypt, he did not fear the king because he feared God more. He wanted to do what God said to do, and he did. And it was counted for him as faith. In verse 28 of Exodus 12, it talks about his protection because of his faith. He was protected because of his faith. They went across the Red Sea because of their faith. They crossed the Jordan River because of their faith. And in their faith. And Moses' faith was there. And Israel's faith was in provision. Provision was provided for Israel in the time of the Egyptian famine in the land, and Joseph being in Egypt and having the place because of faith. Joseph was there, by the way, and Joseph had the miracle of having the food to save the Israelite children. So their faith took them to, and the miracles that happened in Israel. Many miracles happened in Israel. One of the miracles, by faith, the Rahab the harlot delivered the children from being killed by the people, and by faith she put them up. She knew that one day she would be relieved of being killed by doing that. So Rahab's faith gave her deliverance. What is your faith doing for you today? Is your faith doing something in you and for you today? And listen to Gideon. Gideon's faith was a miraculous victory. Gideon, the Lord came and said, Gideon, oh, a man of great valor. And Gideon said, who, me? I'm hiding. I'm down here behind the threshing floor, hiding, threshing, so those people down there in the valley won't see me and come and steal my food. And that was Gideon. And he said, I am the least of my family. And why would you choose me? God doesn't need the biggest or the best. He can take the least and the smallest and make it the biggest and the best, or make it the most. And then Barak. Barak's faith, it triumphed. Samson's faith triumphed. As long as he had the faith in God that he was supposed to have, and not in the flesh, he triumphed. But it was a fleshly thing that caused him to lose faith for a period of time. And then he died because of that lack of faith that he ended up having, because he had faith enough to push those temple posts down and bring the whole temple down, but that wasn't what God's plan originally was for him. Now Japheth had faith in boldness to ask God to enlarge his land, enlarge his property, enlarge his area. I don't think by any stroke of the word that Japheth was being greedy. I think Japheth wanted to enlarge his coastline, that it would be good for the people that he helped and the people that he worked with and God's people. And then we had David. David had a great faith and a great reliance on God. And David's faith was so much and so close to God that God said he's a man after my own heart. In spite of the fact that David had many physical failures, he didn't have any spiritual failures. And then there was Samuel. Samuel had great faith. Samuel was a man of great integrity. He had great integrity, Samuel did. Do you remember how when he was born, how he was taken over there and given to the priest by his mother, and how he was raised by her and by the priest, and how he was put in there by the work of faith. And look, faith will subdue kingdoms. Faith will wrought righteousness in you and I. Well, how do you say, Brother Peter, what kind of kingdom would you want to subdue today? Would you want to take over? Well, I would want to take over the kingdom that the devil would come and put in my life that would not be God's kingdom, and I want to subdue that kingdom. I don't want any hidden. I do not want any hidden thoughts in my life. I don't want hidden places in my life that could crop up and get me someday. And I want to obtain the promises of God. In Numbers 40 and 30, the children of Israel obtained favor with God. And if we could obtain favor today with God, I love that saying in 1 Chronicles 7 and 14. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and do what? Turn from their wicked ways. You say that God's people have wicked ways? Yes, they do. The majority of churches today are a place to go and just be a club. A place to go and have fussing, fighting, have all kinds of things, and have a club. Not to worship God, but there to have a club. And we can obtain those precious promises of God if we will follow Him. Do you know that in Daniel, God stopped the mouth of the lions? Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. And by faith, Daniel said, throw me in there. I don't care. Throw me in there. The lions are going to lay down and go to sleep. I can just see Daniel down there with his head laid up on a lion and just snoring just like the lion was, sound asleep. But you remember what happened to the guys when they got thrown in. The ones that had made Daniel get thrown in, when they got thrown in, the lions ate them and their families. You notice that a sin back in that day, the man himself didn't just take the blame, that the whole family. You remember Achan? You remember the way he stole the garment, goodly garment, and the gold and the silver? He buried the gold deep, and then he buried the silver, and then the goodly garment. I guess he figured if they find anything first, it'd be the garment. And then they'd go and move away, and his silver and gold would be fine. But no, they dug a little deeper, and there was the silver. And then they dug a little deeper, and there was the gold. He could not hide that sin that he did. But anyway, back to the faith. The faith quenched the fire for the three children of Israel. The three children of Israel said, we will go in the fire. If the Lord slay us, He slay us. And we know we're going to heaven and be with Him. So what's the difference? We're ready. And so the fire did not affect them. And then, you know, in 1 Samuel, David escaped the sword. He escaped the sword. And the Israelite children were made strong. Hebrews 11:11 says this. Where is it? Hebrews 11:11. I got to go back a page. I turned over already. And let me see where we are. Hebrews 11:11. It says, through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. God is faithful to honor our faith. And the faith she had was given to her by God. You know, God said He gives every person the amount of faith that they can stand. It says severely. He gives them severely, each person who can do it. And she was strong and waxed valiant. Listen, in Samuel waxed valiant in the fight. And he put the armies to flight. And women had children resurrected in 1 Kings 17:17. And there were some things going on in the Bible that were done by faith in the Old Testament. And there were some that endured torture. There were some that endured mockings, endured scourgings, endured being in bonds. And for instance, the faith that Paul had when him and Silas was in the prison. The faith that Peter had while he was in the prison, and God delivered him. I love the faith Peter had when he stepped out on the water. I love the picture that Jesus showed us. That as long as you've got your mind and your eye upon me, you won't sink. But when you take your eye off me and look at the world and the things of the world, you will sink. You can't do it on your own. We are supposed to, our faith can cause us to suffer different things. Paul suffered different things. He suffered stoning. Stephen suffered stoning to death because Paul was involved in that. And we can endure a flash visit with death. And many people have, and many people are today in the place to where they were close to death. We can suffer temptations to do things that would be pleasure but wouldn't be godly. Some things that are pleasure are not godly, and therefore we don't need to do them. I've been going through a bunch of tapes that I received of late, and I like preaching tapes, singing tapes, and anything, the minute, it don't have to strike 2 times on the tone for me to know that this is not a godly tape. This is a worldly tape. Well, my head would say, well, I'll go ahead and listen to it and see just how good or bad it is. I don't have to. The first time that I realized it was not what God would have, I just pull it out of there and trash it. And that's what I've been doing. And trying not to listen to them twice. It's that old story that I used to tell, and I won't tell it today. And many people in days gone by suffered martyrdom. Fox's Little Book of Martyrs is quite a book about the story of the martyrs. And there are people today, by the way, being martyred even today. There are people being martyred today. People suffering martyrdom. All right. And wanderings. Have you ever wandered away? Have you ever wandered away from the safe hand of God to where your faith wasn't working and you weren't in communion and you get miserable? We need to be careful. I've had that happen, and I know you have too. And so we need to not do that. We need to go to the promises of the New Testament. We need to lay aside, Paul said, lay aside every weight, and every measure that would cause us to fall or have agreements between us and God. Lay it aside, whatever weight it is, hindering you and your Christian progress. You say, well, I don't seem to have anything. Well, you're not looking hard enough. Because if you look hard enough, you'll find it. How many pairs of shoes do you have in your closet? Well, I only have 30 pairs. Wow. Maybe you have a problem with shoes. You have a weight of shoes. Maybe you have too many shirts. Maybe you have too many coats. Maybe you have something in your life that's just not in communion with the Lord. If you could find that out and get rid of it, lay it aside so that you could not be beset by it. The Bible said, lay aside these weights and measures that you could be beset by. Dr. I remember whether it was Dr. Stanley or one of the good preachers today, this morning, that I listen to every day, said this. If you look, there'll be you can find a crack in your armor where there's a place where you have a secret sin. Something in your head you don't want to tell even God. You don't want to tell anybody, even though God already knows it. But some little quirky thing, or some little quirky thought, or some little quirky thing that just may jump up one day and destroy you. You say, can one sin destroy you? Can one nail punch a tire? Can one nail destroy a tire? Yes, it can. Can one needle prick destroy a balloon? Yes, it can. Bang. Gone. Just like that. Listen, one little sin can destroy you. He said here, to run with patience the race that is set before us, to fight the fight, the good fight, to get in the conflict of devil versus God, devil versus God, devil versus God. Always be on the winning side. Always be on the winning side. Always be on the side of God. Somebody asked me today about somebody else. I said, you know what? I think we need to let the Lord take care of that. And you and I be concerned about what God would have us do. And never mind that situation. First place is, it's above us. Neither one of us, if we wanted to, enter into the picture, couldn't do anything but get embarrassed for sticking our nose where it didn't belong. So we need to leave alone those things that are above us and tend to our own business. And God will use us. We can be fat and sassy in the Lord, looking unto Jesus. He is the head of all. And He is the one that trained all of the heroes of faith. He is the author of and the perfecter of our faith. He gave Peter Hutchin, me, the amount of faith that I have. And He gave it to me for a reason, so that I could use it. And He said, look unto Jesus. He is the head of all. He's the head of all of faith, of those of the faith. Observe and analyze every part of His life and conduct His courage in suffering. Preacher preached the other night. What is suffering? Well, I don't know. Could you say I'm suffering because I don't go to the movie hall? I really have got beyond that. No. Because I'm a Christian, I don't go to the movie hall. Why don't you go to the movie hall? Suppose they were going to be showing a good movie. They may be, but the commercials won't be good. Those things about other shows coming up won't be good. There'll be cussing and swearing. There'll be everything ungodly in those. And I'm going to sit there and watch that? No, I'm not. I'm not going to put myself in that position. When men refuse to hear God, they're failing in their faith. When you refuse to hear God, you're failing in your faith. And when you do refuse to hear God, it's like the saying in Job 33, God will deal with you. God's going to deal with you. You refuse to hear Him, He is going to deal with you. And there's 8 reasons why God chastens us. One of them is committing iniquity. What is iniquity? I'll tell you what it was for me. You know what it was for me? I got saved. The Lord delivered me immediately from drinking. Delivered me immediately from swearing. Delivered me immediately from many things. But you know what? I continued to smoke for a whole year. I was chastened by the Lord every time I lit a cigarette for 1 year. The Lord said, you don't need to be doing that. I have called you to be separated from the world. And you don't need to be doing that. But every time I lit one, I was in iniquity. What is iniquity? That is deliberate disobedience to God when He said don't. He said don't, and I said do. He said don't, and I said do. He said don't, and I said do. And every time I said do, I suffered the penalty of being separated from the love and the joy and the physical time I had with God. I got separated from it by my action. And then finally, a year of fighting that, I finally got rid of it. And God gave me a freedom like I never had before. I was in the bus ministry. You can't go visit little children in the bus ministry with a cigarette hanging out of your mouth. I was in the jail ministry. You can't go to the jailhouse with a pack of cigarettes in your pocket and preach to men in jail. They believe you're a hypocrite. I had the experience of a guy coming up, stand beside me and smoking a cigarette. When I left, he got up to preach, and they said, hey, get out of here. We don't want to hear you. You stood there, smoked a cigarette while that man preached. And that's what they thought of it. The guys in jail thought of it. So, look, let's do better things in our life than what the devil would have us do. Let's not provoke God to wrath. And let's not forsake God. And let's not refuse those things he tells us to do or not to do. And let's not rebel. Let's not rebel against things. And let's not refuse instruction. When we hear instruction from the Word of God, let's accept it. If you get in the Word, you're going to get some instruction. If you get in the Word, you're going to get pointed out. The Lord's going to point out to you those little things. Then you say, well, Brother Peter, it's such a little thing. It don't have to be very big. It doesn't have to be very big. Do you know that a penny in the wrong place can stop a door from shutting? You stick a penny in the right place down, that door won't shut. A little old penny, say, that little old penny stopped that door from shutting. Wow, if you were in a submarine, that'd be bad, wouldn't it? Hey, the man's saying, dive, dive, and here's a penny stuck in the door won't close. And you got water coming in. That's how bad it is, one little thing. One little thing has that much effect on your life. So this is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word, telling you today, get in the Word, get in the Word, get in the Word, stay in the Word, don't get out of the Word, never mind anybody else, whatever's going on, God can take care of it. Don't mind this one over here, or this one over here, or that one over there, or this one over here. God will take care of it. He took care of it. He's took care of it all these years. He'll take care of it now. Just mind your own business. Do what you're supposed to do. And go and read Isaiah chapter 58 and find out what you're supposed to do. And Isaiah 58 tells you what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to take care of those that have needs. Those that are out of the church, those that are in the church. Those that are bystanders, those that are different ethnic than you. And you're supposed to take care of everything you can, spiritually and physically, in any way possible. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.